What's up, the world? This is Glassic Gamer coming at you with an episode of Stained Glass. This is going to be my first in the line of many. I'm going to start off with a very simple project. As you can see here, I've gone ahead and located a project. Just did a simple Google search. I figure this way, for somebody just starting, they can do one without having to have a lot of technical design as far as designing. Or if you don't have Glassic 2000, you can actually go ahead and just print them off. As you can see here, when I printed it with Glassic 2000, which I can show you how to use later, what I did was I printed it in a series of 4 pages because it's a 10 by 10 image. And I wanted to give you guys a fairly large, a little bit larger project, nothing tiny, because the smaller the pieces that you have, the harder it gets. So we're going to start by just go ahead and we're going to trim the edges off. So this is what I like to do. I just like to kind of just get a rough cut go here and do a nice clean cut right along the edge here. And since this is the top, I'm going to have to cut this part as well. And we'll go ahead and do the same for this piece. And what I like to do, I like to print off 2 copies. The reason being is the first copy is going to be for your actual template when you're going to solder it up later. And the second copy is actually going to be the pieces that you're going to cut out, as I'm going to show you shortly here as soon as I get these all cut. Trim that down some. And you can see how it's starting to come together here. And when you're printing these, it doesn't really have to be a color printer. You could use a black and white laser such as I did. Some people actually like to just get a set of color pencils and just mark them with the color they're going to use when they start to apply their glass. When they start to cut it out. That way they know if you have 2 pieces that are similar color, such as this one and this one, you want to make sure they're using, for example, blue for this and yellow for this. You wouldn't know that if you had a black and white printer sometimes. Or you can just mark the actual pieces with just just write yellow or write a B for blue or Y for yellow. That's another way you can do it to make it a little bit easier for yourself. There's nothing like there's nothing like cutting out a piece of glass and realizing you cut the wrong piece or the wrong color, and you have to start over. And glass is, it can be expensive. Range anywhere from $5 and up a square foot. So you want to make sure that you're cutting the right piece as you should. Okay, so now you see I've got the actual pattern cut. Now I'm just going to go ahead and line this up as best you can. Doesn't have to be exact because you're going to be cutting these pieces out anyways. But try to get it as close as possible. That way, when you go to cut these, it's just a little bit easier. And you can see these lines match up pretty well. So now what I'm going to use, I'm just going to get some Scotch tape. This is a pretty handy thing to have around the house, especially if you're doing stained glass. And I'm just going to tape these with a tack piece just to get them started. And Just make sure these are all lined up. So you can see the lines, how they actually line right up. That's what we're looking for. There we go. Alright, so now that I've got those just roughly taped so you can see, it just makes it a little bit easier to use. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go ahead and flip it over. I'm just going to use a piece of glass that I have here they're going to be using later. This is going to be a sky color. Just for a flat, smooth surface to tape on. So now I'm just going to get a larger piece of tape now that I have it all tacked in the front. And I just want to smooth it out little by little so it's not scrunching up the paper. Make sure you get the whole thing. And if you start to scrunch, just back up a little bit and it should be fine. This comes off copy paper pretty easy. And just start little by little and just smooth it right out. It's okay if you have a wrinkle in there, it's going to be used as a quick template anyways. So there we go. Okay. So as you can see now, it's fully taped together. It's not going anywhere. It's not coming apart. Now what we're going to do is we're going to decide, well, I think we're going to use this as, we're going to look at this. We're actually going to decide which direction the actual grain of the glass is going to go. So what I do is I actually just take a Sharpie. It's pretty simple, straightforward. Now you see this blade of grass here. If we were to take the glass we're going to use, which is this green right here. This is made by Herbos. And what we're going to do is we're just going to look at it. You can see how it's got a grain, how it goes this direction. We don't want it to go this direction for this because it would look kind of silly. We want it to look like as the organic as possible. For example, if you look at the way the leaves go, they're going to be going this way with the grain of the glass. And we're going to try to match that up. So what we're going to do here is, see how this piece of, this blade of leaf is actually going this way. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to put a little line that marks it, which direction it goes. Just to get a rough idea, that way it looks a little cleaner in the end. And I'm going to be using the background as more of a sky color. So what I'm going to do is, since the sky, as you can see here below, has a grain to it, I'm going to be going to do this. And you'll see why I'm doing this as I cut the pieces out, because once you cut them out, you don't know which direction goes what. And it can get really confusing. So that's why I like to mark these. Just to make it easier on yourself. And if you're not sure which design to use, which way which glass is which, because it can sometimes get confusing once it's in black and white. You can always go back to your original picture or just put it on your phone. And you can view it from there to make it a little bit easier for yourself. As you can see, there's a lot of sky pieces kind of put between these. So that's why I'm kind of making sure we got them marked correctly. All right. Here's one more. That's a tiny piece. So as you can see here, now we've got it all marked out. We've got our which direction the grain of the glass goes. This looks like a leaf, so actually we're going to be going this direction. All right, perfect. So now that we have everything marked out here, we're going to go ahead and cut out the pieces of glass. And actually cut out the pieces of paper representing the glass. So what I'm going to do, this is actually pretty straightforward. I'm just going to get some scissors and just cut it out. So I'm going to trim the edges. This will give us a good starting point. It's good to have clean edges on these because when you cut the glass out, it'll fit better. Okay, so as you can see, we've got this now cut out. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the individual pieces out. Now there's one thing I noticed on here. It looks like the original image may have just been a round image, and it was just zoomed in for the picture. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, instead of having to cut this piece, this piece, this piece, I'll just make it one big piece, just to make life a little bit easier. You could do that, or if you want to, actually we'll make it a little bit easier for you guys. Instead of having to have this as one large piece, because that would be a very difficult piece for a beginner, what I'll do is I'll actually just go straight across here. So what I'll do is I'll just take my Sharpie and I'll just go straight across. See that? Just like that. And that way I'll know to cut that piece out as one piece. So scribble that out. And it'll just make it look a little bit cleaner, not to have that big border through there. And that should make it look pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the actual pieces of paper, just according to the pattern. And it's not too hard. You're just going to go right down the middle of the lines, and you'll get a good flow for it. So you can see there's a piece. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. I mean, you got tape. Or if it's too bad of a mistake, you can actually just print off another page. So it's never really too big of a deal if you make a huge mistake in cutting. It can always be corrected because this isn't glass, it's just paper. And paper is easy to fix. And it's a good idea just to have nice flowing lines. You don't want to have anything that's abrupt or 90 degrees because it just won't work. what's going to end up happening is you're going to have impossible cuts, as they call them. An impossible cut with regular glass cutting tools will not allow you to do 90-degree angles. You can only do straight, curvy, or round. Glass does not like to be cut at 90 degrees. There are ways to do it, but you have to use power saws with diamond blades on them in order to do them, such as almost like a scroll saw type of tool. And a lot of those can be purchased online. They're pretty inexpensive for the most part. But as a beginner, you're not going to need the use of those specialty items, it just save a little money when you're first starting. Now on this one, it looks like it's actually just one piece. You can probably make one piece out of it. As that's all... No, actually that's got the... let's see, that's the flower petal, stem, and sky. Got it. So this is actually the flower petal, the stem and the sky. So something like this, where it's a small piece, you can actually just mark it if you wanted to. You can even flip it over. So I'll put yellow for flower, G for green, and I'll put blue for background. That way I'm not confused as to which color is which. Because here's one where it can get really confusing. As you can see, they're pretty small pieces. And we want to make sure we're actually cutting the right pieces. Something like this, as we took it off before, it's the background piece. But sometimes the background pieces can get confused with other colors, such as yellows, because they're both light colors. And that's something we'll take a look at. If you're ever unsure, you can always take the second copy that you printed and do the same thing as you did before, tape it all together. I'll put B for blue. I know the darker colors are green, so that's why I left them like that. So you can see here. So it actually looks like that may be a all one piece. Let's take a look at the original just to compare that. It's always good to go back to the original, and then you can compare it to make sure, especially when using a black and white printer. But you can use a color printer. That actually could make it a little bit easier. But sometimes the price of ink is actually more expensive than the price of just getting a laser printer and using toner, because you can stamp out hundreds of them pretty cheaply. All right, so you can see here, that's this piece right here. So it looks like it's a yellow, because it's going to be the flower. So this is the flower petals. And it looks like... No, that's actually the flower petal there. So this is actually just all sky piece right here. So I could probably get away with making just one piece. I have a feeling that he may have actually created one piece initially, and then it broke when he was creating it. So he decided rather than cut a new piece... Here, I'll get this a little closer. So rather than cutting one continuous piece, he may have actually broken this piece. So what he probably did was just foiled it and soldered it together to make additional small pieces. You could do that, but I prefer just to make one big piece. It'll be a lot cleaner looking at the end, as you'll have as few solder lines as possible, because sometimes the solder lines can be disruptive to the actual image. You just want to highlight what you want to highlight, and use the pieces accordingly. So let me remark that piece. It's a good thing we went back to the original image. All right, so let me go ahead and fix that so that's all. This is all blue, and this is the direction, as you can see here. So that's good. I left it as it was instead of trimming it down to a smaller piece. All right, so now we'll continue to cut. You're going to want to take your time with this. There's no rush to get the templates cut out because this is actually what you're going to be using to base your whole project on. So as far as cutting the physical glass, so you're going to want to make sure that you're as accurate as possible. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact, but you want to have quite a bit of accuracy. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's just not going to look right, or your pieces won't fit together properly. You'll find with stained glass that smaller pieces are generally harder to cut, and as soon as you foil them, they just don't look right. They're going to look really tiny. So sometimes when you get tiny pieces like this, it may be better just to make it fully green in this particular instance, because it just won't look right when you do it that otherwise. So what I'm going to do with this piece, I'm actually going to eliminate that one piece. And I'm going to do it a little sneaky way. What I'll do is I'll just trim it up here like that. And we'll make it look like it's supposed to be. Let me just trim off these sharp edges because sharp edges do no good. There we go. I'll just make this whole piece green and make it look like one big leaf. That way it's going to make it a little bit easier to accomplish. Plus, aesthetically, just putting a tiny little piece of glass in there, you're not really going to notice a big difference. It's going to look out of place. Like I said, this project was probably zoomed in from a larger image, so that's why some pieces look a little bit off from what they should be. We're almost there. And again, we made this one piece just a little bit bigger, just to make it look a little cleaner. We're going to trim it here, though, just to make it an easier piece for you guys to use. That, and we have to make sure we have the glass for it. I should have some more glass in stock, though, to make that. That's not a problem. All right, here, like so, and there we go. All right, so now we have a mishmash of puzzle pieces, essentially. Now we're going to go ahead and do the actual glass cutting. And here's a sneak peek at the next video coming up. It's going to be the actual glass cutting portion. And I would like to take this time to thank all of the subscribers and viewers. Thank you so very much. Without all of you, this would not be a thing. If you've enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and comment below. As always, if you have not done so already, please subscribe. This is Glassic Gamer signing off. I'll see you next time.